welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Dan Falkenstrom. I am the Interim Executive Director here at the Tech Valley Center of Gravity. If you're not familiar with us, we are a makerspace, STEAM education center, and manufacturing incubator located here in downtown Troy. So our goal is to provide affordable access to equipment, workspace, and network of people who like to make stuff and who are looking to start hardware-based businesses. So at our core, we are a makerspace. So we have over $180,000 of fabrication equipment here spread out over 13,000 square feet. And membership is available to anyone. You don't have to be a business owner. So we have everyone from hobbyists to entrepreneurs, students to retirees. Anyone who likes to create things can find a home here. And in addition to the makerspace, we offer a manufacturing incubator program. And the whole point of that program is to help hardware-based startups figure out manufacturing issues. So whether you are working on transitioning from a prototype into manufacturing, or whether you're working on a prototype and trying to figure out your customer discovery and marketing process, we can provide assistance by providing mentorship and some guidance. So I'll segue into our, not quite presenters today. This is going to be more of like an open conversation and a little bit of dialogue. So we're very thankful to have IgniteU with us. So IgniteU hosts a wide range of events and workshops and accelerator programs, all dedicated to helping startups and entrepreneurs grow. So Robert Manasier, he is the CEO of InFocus Brands. He's also a serial entrepreneur and brand builder. He is experienced with hundreds of startups, products, and acceleration campaigns. And he serves as the entrepreneur in residence for IgniteU, Sage College's National Science Foundation, among many others. And joining him is Sam Meir, who is the program manager at IgniteU, and the founder and CEO of Campus Pro, who is an IgniteU Accelerator alum. And he's a seasoned entrepreneur. He's willing to help to share his success stories and to help other entrepreneurs succeed. So I'll pass it over to you guys, and we'll go from there.
You want to do the overview of IgniteU?
Yeah, so Dan did a great job explaining IgniteU already, so not much I have to fill in here, but IgniteU is a program for entrepreneurs, business owners, anyone who wants to become an entrepreneur, business owner. We have a variety of different resources, from accelerator programs to workshops, events, on-site mentoring and consulting, all throughout the year. Our next program is a 6-week boot camp coming up here in the next couple of weeks that we'll send a link in later on in the conversation. It's a free boot camp for anyone to join to kind of learn more about operational efficiencies, bringing their ideas to market, customer discovery, marketing. We bring in a lot of different subject matter experts and mentors as well outside of our team to help people bring their ideas to life or to help continue growing their current business. So wide variety of resources here at IgniteU to help entrepreneurs and business owners grow their companies. And the upcoming one is a 6-week boot camp in a couple of weeks, which I will send the link in later on in the show.
Well done, Sam. So we're talking about customer discovery and product market fit. So I'm just going to start the conversation with a phrase that everybody that goes through our cohorts hates. No one cares about your technology or idea. No one cares until you make them care. And customer discovery and product market fit are a great way of figuring out who cares and why they should care. And I know this is a Q&A, so we'd rather hear questions from you to give you value on this hour than hearing Sam and I talk for the next hour. So
yeah, if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat. We have the chat open right now. So as Dan mentioned, this is more of a conversation, open discussion rather than a presentation. So we're hoping to provide as much insight to you guys as possible with the questions you guys are asking. All right, Sam asks, how do we make them care, Bob?
Why don't you start, Sam? Because you had a lot of problems with that with Campus Pro.
Yeah, so as Dan mentioned before, I started a mobile app for college students. It was called Campus Pro. It connected students who provided services on campus with other students looking for services. So it was a mobile app that could have been tutoring, ride sharing, selling textbooks or whatnot. And I had all these ideas for the app, right? I wanted to make it all these different features, X, Y, Z, all the bells and whistles. And as an entrepreneur, I mean, one good thing is you fail and you succeed. And I think the failures are actually more important than some of the successes because you're able to learn from them for your next venture, your project, or even sharing it with other entrepreneurs. So what I learned was I didn't do as much customer discovery from the beginning. So I made the first version of the app. It had all these bells and whistles. I invested so much time and money into making that platform, but it wasn't until I got to IgniteU when I came in here in the summer 2018 as a startup that I should have gone back in time and really done customer discovery, talk to a bunch of college students, get a bunch of data, see exactly what they would want on the platform. Is this something they're going to use? Is this something they're going to pay for, or would they rather use it free, and how would I be able to monetize if it was free? So I actually went back. I had this app launched for about a year. I came into IgniteU, went through the program. I ended up making a new version of the app, much more simpler, much more less sophisticated, because I went back and talked to customers. I went back to talk to the end users, these college students, to see what they wanted, how would they use it, when would they use it. Instead of me, I assumed all that stuff the first time around. I did a little bit of customer discovery, but it was limited. I was just so excited as an entrepreneur to get this app running, to get it in the app store, to get it developed. Where, if you take that extra time to do the research, to do the customer discovery, to talk to your end user or your end customer on exactly what they want, you learn what they'll care about. And then from there, you can make a product or service that they're actually going to use. And you'll save a lot more time and money that way. You think, from the beginning that exactly what the customer wants, but at the end of the day, even I didn't know what they want. I made this sophisticated app that had too many features, where at the beginning, I could have saved a lot more money with development and time with the development if I just made a more simplified version of an MVP. Was that too much, guys? Sorry, just trying to tell a little backstory there.
And I'm just going to go back a little. So if we're using any terms that you don't understand, either put it in chat or raise your hand, because it's on us that if we're using terms you don't understand. But I'll also add to what Sam said. How do you make them care is by knowing where your idea or your technology fits in your target customer's life, right? It's not about the features, because inventors and idea stage companies love to talk about what they're going to do. None of that matters until you know what you're going to do applies to your target customer, right? In the business model canvas, we call that unique value propositions. What value do you bring to your target market? If you know that and can explain that simply to people, then they're going to learn to care, or they're not going to care, but then you've just filtered them out as a potential customer. So that's probably the first thing you can do. And you don't have to go into the technology. You don't have to go into your IP. You figure out whatever you're trying to solve right now, what are they using to do the exact same solution? And then are you replacing it, or are you a completely new way of thinking? And then what value does it bring? Is it faster? Is it easier? Right? Does it make them feel better about themselves? Right? We forget in business that most decisions are made emotionally. They're not rational. They're not sitting there going pros and cons. They feel that you can deliver something to them. You've told them you can deliver something to them, and that's when you start creating the value. So I hope I answered that question for you, Sam.
We have another question here.
Ooh.
Sam gave you a thumbs up. From Carl.
That was a different finger he just gave me.
Carl, what are some ways to successfully get through to the right people to ask your customer discovery questions? What are some of the ways? I guess for me, just going out in the field and essentially trying to find people that are going to be the demographic of your target. Like for me, my target user. So for me, I was walking around all different college campuses from different geographic areas, from different demographics, to collect the data I needed, because at the end of the day, college students were my end user, who are going to be my end customers using the platform, right? But let's say you're a service provider for B2B and you need to talk to business owners about a tech service that you're going to be trying to create. I mean, then you have to kind of filter whether it's, LinkedIn and going by job titles, or getting connected to the right people. If you know any personal individuals, it's just going to take some time to make that effort to find the right people to talk to that match the demographic, the behaviors of your end user or end customer, right? And an end user could be different than an end customer. Let's say if you're making a product for kids, the end user is the kids, but the end customer is more than likely their parents, right? Because they're going to be, or the end customer is more than likely their parents, because they're going to be the ones buying it. But yeah, just going to take some time to exactly find those individuals, those right individuals that match who your end user and customer are going to be. That make sense, Bob?
Yeah, a few things there. One is you have to assume you're going to be wrong, right? I think most people start off being very clear on who they think they're going to sell to, and typically they're wrong. So you have to be more open-minded. But there's also a few things you can do. You can list your features and the benefits it provides to a series of different target markets, right? Because target users are very different than target buyers. And I think most startups that we see at IgniteU, they know who's going to use it, but they don't always know who's going to buy it. And those are two different markets. And if you understand that, it's going to make it easier to get into conversations. Good question, Carl. Do I get the finger too, just like from Sam?
Sorry, guys, I'm just reading the other questions here, so bear with us. I have a utility patent on a personal shopping cart and storage system that uses reusable baskets. No unpacking needed. Looking for assistance in connecting to license the product. That is from someone here.
Me.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't read the person. All right. I guess Bob, you can jump on that one first. You can definitely help you with our resources here at IgniteU to make some of those connections, but
Yeah, that goes back to what are you replacing? What are you
Plastic
substituting?
bags.
I'm sorry?
I'm replacing plastic bags.
Well, in New York State, you can't use plastic bags anymore anyway. Right?
Right.
So, and who would buy it? Is it consumer or are you going to?
Yeah, it would be a personal shopping cart, so people could walk to the store and not have to carry their groceries in a backpack or a similar type cart that crushes their items.
Right. So you've already narrowed down your target market to people who probably live in a city. Correct? Urban.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, people who want to walk to the
up
store.
here, no one's walking to the store typically.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how you fine tune. And then you're replacing the reusable bags, correct?
There are no bags. So yeah.
No, there are the reusable shopping bags that everybody has now.
Yeah, they don't need those. They could use them if they want to, but they don't need them.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You're replacing those.
Yeah.
Right. So have you talked to people that live in a city that have reusable bags that walk to stores? Because that's who you'd have to understand what behavior you'd have to change or modify to get them to adopt that.
what pain points?
Right. I've talked to people in IgniteU in California on a food, we did a food oriented workshop. And there were quite a few co-ops and boutique stores that were interested in the idea. But manufacturing and distribution are huge hurdles for this product. So I was looking for someone who already maybe works on other shopping carts or bending wire who could manufacture mine as a licensee. And that's where I get stuck.
Have you talked to any of the stores near you about where they get their shopping carts from? And just
Yeah, I mean, I've done all that research myself too. I did a lot of that research just to get the patent.
Yeah, but did you talk to any of the carriage manufacturers?
That's what I'm trying to reach. I have tried to reach them myself. There's somehow or another a layer of that typical, we didn't think of it, so we don't want it kind of mentality.
Have you done any, and we can take this offline because I don't want to take up the whole time,
Yeah.
but have you done any pilots with actual customers so you had real metrics to give to those manufacturers?
I was attempting to do that, but I was going to be charged up front to do the marketing campaign. And I thought that sounded like a scam.
You need market validation or most manufacturers won't talk to you on a license deal, but Sam will send in chat our emails and you can just, we'll get on the phone and talk about it.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
guys,
you.
I will send the link to the business bootcamp and our emails towards like the last 10 minutes of the program. So I'm not interrupting my big forehead with the questions here, but let's see here. Thank you for the question though. We have a question from Dan. When is it the right time to move from customer discovery to finalize the product design? How do I know I discovered enough? It's a great question. For myself personally, I tried to get, when I went through the second phase of making the app, before I made the app and did limited customer discovery, I try to get as much data as I can. So for me, it was talking to college students. So my goal, and Bob, correct me if I'm wrong in terms of quantity, the number of kind of interviews I did, but my goal was to talk to at least a minimum of around 500 students, right? And that's not just sending a survey, that's going around campus, talking to them in person, reading their body language. Because a survey, someone fills out a survey that they're not really understanding what you're asking them, but you're not even really understanding what the information you're getting from them. So for me, because there were so many, and I went from different campuses, it wasn't just one campus. I went to different campuses across Capital Region and Syracuse to sit down and talk to students about their pain points in this particular, type of college experience. And for me, I got 500. I went to do 500 interviews and kind of looked at the data to see if there's any certain trends or information that was leaning towards one way or the other. And that's kind of where I decided, all right, I have enough information to maybe make the first version of the product, right? And then from there, you make that first version of the product, then you continue getting feedback on that first version and reiterating it from there with direct customer feedback, not in just what you think is the right, updates or the right fixes that you need to do. I made the first version, send it to all of our beta users that were college students, got feedback, and from there we just kept reiterating the mobile application. But Bob, what do you think is, how do you know when's enough is enough?
Well, I think it depends on what your goal is for the invention or the company, right? If you're looking to exit it, and we just had a license example, then you can take it to a certain prototype level that has market validation, and maybe it's market validation and a patent, and that's all you need because you don't want to build the company. So it's reverse engineering how far you want to go down the prototype phases before you stop, right? It's who we're going to sell this to. But part of business is never stopping iteration, right? Everybody knows the Apple story, right? Steve Jobs launched the product and learned in market. He had enough money to do it. The first iPhone was garbage. Everything that people were saying about it, he iterated on and made better products, right? That it actually took over from a much better technology in BlackBerry. So that's a different way of looking at it, but he needed the consumer because he was going after usability and making it the easiest thing possible and getting everybody addicted. So it really depends on your ultimate goal of your product or your company to figure out when you have enough. And that goes to understanding who you're going to sell it to and how much information you need at that endpoint to get them to make a decision. So I hope that helped.
Great question. Eric asked, for the bootcamp and other IgniteU programs, are there any restrictions on what type of startups can participate? So, and Bob, jump in whenever. For the bootcamp is from ideation to any company from ideation to commercialization. So that is open for anyone who has an idea to anyone who has an existing company that's generating revenue. For our accelerator programs throughout the year, we have an MWBE in Veteran-Owned Business Accelerator program that's usually in the winter. That's a 6-week program, and that is eligible for minority or women-owned business enterprise companies. So to qualify for that, you don't need the certification. You just need to, most of your team makeup of your company needs to follow the eligibility for MWBE or VOB guidelines for New York State, which means your team needs to have a makeup of more than 51% of your company has to either be woman-owned or minority-owned or veteran-owned. So those are like the 3 qualifications. That's what we do for MWBE, and you need to at least have 1 paying client for that. So operating companies. The summer one is not limited to MWBE or VOB. It's an 8-week program, but then you do need to be operational. You do need to at least have 1 paying customer. And did I miss anything, Bob?
No, and because the IgniteU accelerator is focused on scaling business, it's taking most of these startup companies from the valley of death of startup where you can only do so much and adding layers of process so you can scale. So you need the paying customer, because until you have a paying customer, you don't really have a business, because it has that much impact on what you do as a company.
Hopefully we answered your question, Eric. Feel free to follow up in the chat if you have any more questions about that. From Jeff, do you use a framework like design thinking to capture and iterate on input as well as to plan out your roadmap?
We use a compilation of some of our own intellectual property. Design thinking is part of it. Business model canvas is some of it. But more important than anything is the product market fit and the customer discovery. What is the market telling our cohort members about their product or service? Because that's gonna answer a lot of those theories in real time with real numbers behind it, because they're paying our cohort members. So yes plus is the answer.
Yes, and more.
Yeah.
You guys are doing a great job asking questions.
We're just doing a bad job answering them, I think, but that's a different story.
Hope not.
I haven't heard from John yet. You send me a nasty message in text and then you can't talk, John? Come on.
At least Carl and Sam are giving us the finger. Is it another one? No, that's the same
No,
one.
it's the same one. Nothing else?
Don't be shy, guys. In the meantime, I will send our emails in here. If it's not awkward timing. Do you have any, Dan, on your end, do you have anything on your end? Are we missing anything?
I'm also gonna write this down for everybody, because even if you have a patent or you don't, you should read Talking to Humans. You can Google it. It's a free PDF you can download. You should never share your intellectual property in a conversation. That's why we focus so much on the value or the benefit you bring to your target market. It's not the technology. So it's an easy document to read. Read it. It'll help you understand how to interview without giving away anything. That's a key first step. I think, Carl, you've read it before, haven't you? He just doesn't want to talk today, Carl.
I don't know if he can unmute himself.
Oh, okay.
Can people
Sorry.
unmute themselves, Dan?
Yeah, they can.
No, I have not.
I thought you had for some reason.
I'm curious whether anyone else in the room has any examples of market research work that they have done on their products that they'd be willing to share with the group.
Yeah, and we're not a big fans of surveys over interviews, because surveys give you attitude, it doesn't give you behavior. And really, everything we've been saying here is getting to understand the behavior of your target market, not their attitude. We see a lot of companies in here where a lot of people told them they loved the idea, right? And you can get that in surveys. Great idea, right? Love the idea. That doesn't help you. I'd rather have more people pushing negatively on our ideas and businesses than positive, because they're going to show everything we haven't thought of.
And don't interview family or friends, because they're always going to support you. Go out and find strangers.
Except my family. They're a great focus group.
Now, I read something once that was, it talked about attaching value to the feedback that you're getting, like getting someone to say, oh, that's nice in a survey is like a 1-star value item. But if you get someone to sign up for an email list to get more information about your product, that's like a 2-star value thing. If you get someone to give you a down payment on a future product, that's like a 4-star value piece of information, because you've proven that that this person is willing to spend money to get your object. They've got more skin in the game in your idea. So I don't know if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so here when we run focus groups, we bifurcate the intel, because we make them buy the product or a future product, just like crowdfunding does, right? You're prepaying for something that has more relevance to our markets studies than the people that just say they like it but don't engage or don't buy it. So I completely agree. You also have to know that there's people out there that are just going to be negative to be negative. And that's where Talking to Humans also helps, because a lot of the interaction is nonverbal. It's their body language, right? We sit in meetings, we know when people hate what we're saying because of the way they react. It's not what they say to us. It's the way their body moves or the way they turn away from us or run out the door. It's a different story. Sam left. Look, Sam's back.
Just so you guys know, I put our emails before the chat gets before that information gets put at the top of the chat. Our emails and the IgniteU website and the link to the business bootcamp to learn more and apply. But we do have some more questions coming in, so let's take a look at those. Matthew asks, what would be an example of a survey versus an interview? So a survey is just essentially a link that you're sending out to mass number of people receiving the information, whether that's open-ended or closed-ended, at least at a minimum, keeping those questions open-ended so you can kind of get a little bit more information than a yes or no from somebody. An interview is, I mean, an interview is a face-to-face, you know, right now is maybe virtual, you know, on Zoom, but trying to sit down face-to-face with someone and then reading their body language, kind of seeing how they're reacting when you're asking those questions. You could use questions that you would put in a survey in the interview to ask them. I like to keep mine more open-ended than closed-ended, but also not trying to lead those questions to answers that you want to hear, right? Just kind of keeping it as vague as possible, but open-ended as, you know, in addition to that. And just kind of reading their body language and not having them lead to answers you want to hear. You know, that could be a habit of yours sometimes. And sometimes the truth hurts and you might hear some answers that you don't want to hear, but kind of reiterating from that. What do you think, Bob?
So I'm going to disagree with Sam for the first time today.
Which is a surprise because we always disagree.
Don't use any of your survey questions. What you want to do and why the power of an interview is because you get that person to tell you a story, right? You need the story of how your product or idea or how they're currently solving that problem. Right? That's the biggest difference between surveys and interviews is you get them to tell a story and then you get all that intel and all their phrases and all their messaging that you can use on the next interview. And hopefully, if it starts lining up, a lot of those phrases become your messaging and your marketing. Because it's not what you say that matters. It's what they're saying about what you do that matters. So that's the power of an interview. Surveys, we've all taken them. You check boxes. How engaged are you? In an interview, I can tell who's engaged and who's not engaged, right? So then you put that, just like Dan was talking about, on a different level. Like this person really didn't care what I was talking about. They go in a different bucket. So I hope that helped. That's a great question. And something that just takes practice too. It's very hard to interview people about your idea, and it's just practice. And we do a lot of practice here in the cohort, so much so until they start calling me bad names.
Or they just leave.
Or they just leave.
John asked, what do you mean by behavior versus likes?
I think I kind of hit on that. I mean, a lot of people will tell you just out of respect that they like what you're talking about. That doesn't make them a customer, and it doesn't make them a paying customer. So behavior, though, should tell you where your technology fits, right? What are they doing currently, and can I replace it, or is it a completely new behavior they have to learn? Because that also talks about how much education you have to do to the customer, how much marketing you have to do, the different themes of marketing. So in that behavior, you get a lot more intel, and you just have to be open to listening to it. The likes is just, it's binary, right? I like it, I don't like it. You don't learn a lot from that. So I'll let you take over, Sam. Sorry.
No, I think you hit it on the head right there. So
What else?
Any other questions?
We answered everything. Come on, Sam. You got to have more questions. Sam W. Not going to.
Here we go. Eric asks, is the boot camp in person, virtual, or both? Bob, I'll let you answer that.
That's a great question. I think right now it's going to be virtual. We were going to go hybrid where some was in person and some wasn't, but I think right now it's predominantly virtual. So
Yeah,
anybody can join.
We'll be hearing up from the higher ups about that soon, but with all the COVID circumstances, I think we're leaning towards virtual. But good question. Sam, tell us about the new thing going on in Rome. Is that that's the boot camp that we are referring to right now. So we partnered with AEDC to run a 6-week boot camp for anyone with an idea or an operating company to help bring that idea to life, or grow and scale those operations. We mentioned it was supposed to be in person with a hybrid, but now it's probably going to be a virtual with all the COVID stuff going on. So eligibility is open to everyone. There's no particular requirements in terms of eligibility. And you're able to network with our team, work with our team directly, one-on-ones, We bring in subject matter experts from all different industries, legal, finance, marketing, you name it, investors, and other mentors as well that you can connect with and utilize throughout the 6-week program. And then, being a part of the IgniteU family post program. So you always have us as a resource to help guide and grow your guys' companies and ideas. So I hope that answered that. And it's our headquarters. So IgniteU is funded and organized and started through a company called NYS Tech. NYS Tech does technology consulting services for a bunch of different companies and even New York State. So they started IgniteU about 6 years ago as an initiative to give back to the community. So all of our programming is free, and our headquarters is in Rome, which is why we are starting a program in Rome in partnership with AEDC. Sam asks, how much equity does IgniteU take in your company? We don't ask for anything. You don't have to pay us for any of our resources. We don't take any equity. It's not like a Start Fast or, Y Combinator where they take a certain amount of money or a certain amount of equity from your company. Everything is free that we do at the moment. So we don't take any equity.
Carl asked the question before that though.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. I missed that. Carl, I want to do customer discoveries for some new product features. I'll talk to existing customers and non-customers. How should the conversation differ between the group so that I can get the best unbiased info, particularly from the current customers? So if you have the product already made, and if you can sit down with them, have them just have them go through, if whatever it is, if it's a physical product, if it's an app or whatnot, have them use the product in front of you, have them go through the product and just kind of see their natural behavior around it. If you see them kind of fiddling, let's say it's an app, you see them fiddling with a certain aspect of it that they're having trouble using, that's an immediate, not red flag, but hey, ask them why you're having trouble with that section, or write that down as all right, we need to make that user experience a little bit more efficient, because without them even saying it or just trying to shuffle through that aspect of it, it seems like a challenge already. You want the user experience to be as seamless as possible. And then from there, after you kind of see them naturally use it, they'll maybe come up with some, just have them naturally use it and just say, I'm here to just watch and get your natural feedback. Have them try to give you some direct feedback on certain aspects of it, see how they naturally react to it, see how they naturally use it. If they are having certain questions about it and you kind of get that certain question for multiple individuals and it's a common theme and trend, that's something you might want to reiterate or reuse or, fix.
The new features are bolt-ons, right, Carl? Like they already used the product and now you're adding other features to it.
Yeah, so actually, and I added another piece in the chat, but basically there's actually, it's kind of a two-part question. There are some new features, and I'm also, I guess the question is also asking it from the perspective of planned new features. So I'm looking at both things.
So why did you decide to add features? Is that from the customer telling you they need it? Because that's customer discovery, right? That's iteration. Or did you just make up these features and throw it on and hope the customers engage it?
Some of both, but I also use my own product. I kind of bend it in some ways. I'm not an actual target customer. I'm not a trucking company, but these are things that I recognize that as a user, I know that you need.
Sorry, but you should not be creating features. Just if you're not a target customer, you should be getting all that intel from your existing client base, because you're just going off on assumptions. And you're like the typical, right? I'm building it for myself, but I'll never pay myself for it, right? If trucking companies are your target, you need to be in constant communication with them of what works, what doesn't work, and what you should throw out, right? So the existing customers are very powerful for any business. And a lot of companies don't spend enough time with them because you can get honest, raw feedback from the market. New customers are always sexier, right? We always want new, we want bigger. But those existing customers are a brain trust. They've already committed to your company. They're already using your product. And they're the ones, because they're paying you, that will tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly of what's going on. So those are really powerful demos and focus groups and feedback.
Right. Well, and like I said, it's a combination of those things. I mean, part of it's, I said because I use it, but I understand that directly because, I'm also seeing some of their feedback about the same issues. So it is a combination. It's not straight out of my head only.
And from
But
what I
I
experienced,
hear you.
sorry, Carl. What I was saying, from what I experienced, what I learned from my own ventures, before you go out and kind of improve your product or your services, with new features or aspects of it, make sure that current version of it is almost, and maybe Bob disagrees, not to say almost to perfection, but almost to 100% efficiency and effectiveness. Like, instead of like adding a new feature to something that you is still not even fully fixed in the first version of it, I wouldn't go there until that user experience is almost perfect in the first version of your product or your service. And then you can go on after you do your customer discovery for new features or whatnot, new benefits, and adding and building on top of that. So one thing I wish I did, yes, we were improving one aspect of the product, and then we added a feature based on customer feedback, but we weren't even fully finished with the first version of it, right? So we just, instead of fully making sure that's 100% and almost to perfection, then going on and adding those features. But that's just my opinion and from what I learned from my experience, that I wish I could maybe go back and fix it a little bit. But Bob, I don't know if you agree or disagree with that.
No, I was just going to add to the potential new client demos. A lot of times when we have new technology, we let them play with it without us saying anything. Because we all know that nobody reads directions. No one does what the manufacturer says you should do. So we love to just hand it over. And we just did one, I think 2 years, right before COVID, we did it with a film product. We left it on the table and brought filmmakers in to see how they would interact with the product without saying a word. Because you learn so much about what they gravitate to, which also helps you with marketing once again, to kind of break that market, to get them to connect to you. Because that's the hardest thing for all of us. There's so much noise out there. Yeah. And then take them through a structured demo. So let them play first, pay attention to what they're doing and where they're focused, and then take them through a structured demo. You get so much out of that interaction with people that don't know your product. It's magical, actually.
Sam asks, do you have any books, videos, resources you recommend?
I always recommend for people to go talk to who they think their target markets are. The greatest learning is going to be face-to-face, specific to what you're doing, right? We can all read theory. Every textbook's out there. There's a million books, but it doesn't apply or directly applicable to what you're doing. The best intel you can get is by standing in front of somebody and them telling you that what you're doing has no value to them.
Yeah, just jumping in the deep end yourself and kind of learning yourself. Yeah. Also, what we use here a lot is the business model canvas. Bob mentioned it before. So kind of just Googling business model canvas and familiarizing yourself around that, especially if you're looking to be a part of the business bootcamp and any future IgniteU programming. We do refer that a lot, the business model canvas and those different sections on there. So you might even have a head start if you're planning to be a part of the bootcamp or any future IgniteU programming or events. So you're more familiar with that. Definitely recommend the BMC as a resource.
And there's great YouTube videos, very short videos on each of the boxes of the business model canvas. And the PDF I mentioned, Talking to Humans, would be a good read.
Yeah.
So. Nothing else.
We're waiting. And you guys, just so you guys can stay up to date on all IgniteU events, resources, programming, I am going to put our social media handle for all social media platforms. I need my glasses. At IgniteU, NY. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and you can even connect with Bob and I personally on LinkedIn to stay up to date and all in real time, all IgniteU programming resources and things that we share that will benefit you guys in different areas. Sam asks, what are some of the greatest insights you've gained from interviews? So when it comes to customer discovery, especially when I was trying to improve the first version of the product, when I did it the second time, was just getting their feedback. And for me, user experience is really important, making sure it was as seamless as the product is as seamless as possible, was as efficient as possible. So, when you're getting constructive or positive feedback from your users or even new potential users, new customers, that's what really helped us grow a lot and helped us, be more relatable to other students at other universities and make it more of a universal platform with the same target users. So just feedback on the product, improving the product, making sure it's as usable and as efficient and as the best as possible it can for the end user. So they're happy with it, so they can do word of mouth, so they will share it with others. I mean, that was really important for when I was doing interviews.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing anybody learns from an interview is, or what they should be learning, is a process to engage and to buy. So we've had a lot of companies come through here that were sitting in neutral or at zero for a long time, and they'd done the interviews, but they never asked the questions about, how do you buy this type of technology? How do you buy this service? Right? So they're talking to the right target market, but they're not talking to the person who's actually going to buy it. And that's two very different perspectives. That's like talking to an engineer and then the CFO, right? An engineer might all want it. Then you go to the CFO and there's no budget, right? So there's two ways to approach any market, top down or bottom up, right? They were talking to the engineers, but they couldn't move the needle on the person to cut the check. So, some of the greatest things we've learned from interviews are what we shouldn't be doing. And I've had articles out there about my own failures in my own companies. We had great technology way before the water craze. I just never thought of design. And nobody bought it because it was ugly and they didn't want to put it on their kitchen counter, right? Completely missed that. The technology worked, the science worked, it made cleaner water, cheaper. No one wanted it on their counter. Right? So interviews have to take a lot of layers and you have to really think through it. And sometimes you read the intel wrong too. So it takes practice. I'll keep saying that. We make everybody at IgniteU practice a lot in their markets. So.
Any other questions? And I'll put our full names in here. So if you guys want to connect with us on LinkedIn, if you haven't gotten it from, I have a different name for Bob, but I'll put the more appropriate one on here for you guys.
You misspell it, you're in trouble.
I know, that's why I have to look. J-A-C-K.
Yeah, absolutely. I get you.
Space.
Come on, throw out some more questions. Does everybody have an idea or the beginning of a product on this? Both? Jump in, get off mute. Mute's no fun.
I'll jump in.
Awesome.
Bob, we met a few years ago when I was marketing my diapers.
Yep.
But during the pandemic, we pivoted to do an isolation gown that's washable 300 times. And we're in the process of getting FDA approval right now. But we've been tested to level 4, which is the highest level, can be used in any situation. And the closest washable gown is 12 times. So we can save over $20,000 for every 10,000 uses. However, how do I get to the people who are actually buying at a hospital? How do I get the data on how much a hospital uses isolation gowns? How many do they go through in a month? And I have been stuck. When I did my diapers, I just held focus groups and we did pretty much everything you said, and we got immediate feedback. We did not only the survey where they went home with our product, they tried it for 2 weeks, they came back, filled out the paperwork, and then we actually had interviews to go over what their experience was. And that's what we learned, what was good about our product, what was bad, and how we refined it. But with this, I can't even get somewhere to talk to someone about how they use it.
So who are you talking to at the hospitals?
Well, what I did was I tried to reach out to some organizations that work with hospitals, and they took the gowns to the hospitals, and the people who were trying them on, who were doctors or nurses, loved it because it's one size and it's breathable. So it's even better than the disposables that they're using. But could never break through to getting into where people were actually in purchasing.
Yeah, so you got to find the procurement people, right? Those are
Correct.
the ones that matter. And you can find them online though, right? That's the beauty of LinkedIn. You can find procurement people all the time. And if you run dry, let me know, because we know a number of C-level people in all the hospitals that we can probably help you get into there.
Well,
But
that
it's a
would be
great
awesome.
exercise to use social media platforms to get connected to the people you want. It's much easier than, you know, the old days before Sam was born, when he had to pick up the phone and
And the beauty of doing events and webinars like this, Sam mentioned, asked if you've talked to anyone at Albany Med. He may know someone over there that he could help reach out to connect you if they are interested. And then
That would be awesome.
so Sam will make that connection with Sandra if you guys want to put each other's emails or direct message each other in his chat. And then John mentioned if you've spoken to anyone at BAAC at Albany Med as well.
biomedical accelerator.
So
Stephanie.
so there.
No, I haven't. So any of that, if I could get any of that information, that would be absolutely awesome.
Sam put his email in the chat for you. So
Thank you, Sam. I will
and
email
I don't know
you.
if John had a direct connection there, but he just mentioned the back at Albany Med, so could be somewhere to research as well.
I'll send you Stephanie's email, Sandra.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll just put my email here as well.
Look at that, the power of networking.
Yes.
Thank you, Tech Valley Center of Gravity.
Good job, Dan.
Good job, Dan.
This system works.
Sometimes.
Anyone else have any other questions? What time? We have a few more minutes.
10 more minutes. I'm gonna have to start calling on people.
I'll talk,
Tom
Bob.
Reynolds.
I'll talk.
Tom
I'll
Reynolds
talk.
hiding over
Here we
there.
go. Hey, we're having another event. I'm just gonna pitch. We're having like an inventor and entrepreneur sharing night. So tomorrow night at the Center of Gravity, I think it starts at 6 or 6:30. Can't remember off the top of my head.
7.
7. Okay, 7. So anyway, it's a good place to network as well. It's all this is all tied together with what we're in now. And yeah, it's all about like what Bob and Sam were just saying, like networking, just try to help each other basically. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
All right, I got one. Can you talk just a little bit about, okay, so you're doing the customer discovery process, you're coming up with some things that seem pretty solid, supporting what you want to do. How do you then take that and convert that to a pricing model and trying to peg in a number there?
Well, if you know their behavior and what they're using currently, you have a starting point. But we also love pilots. We love the shared risk of a pilot, but it's not a free pilot. You have to get the sponsor to pay something to offset some of the costs, because if they're doing it for free, it has no value. Once again, right? What does free really get you? So that's kind of the start to a pricing model. But pricing models also go back to what resources you have and at what stage you're at, right? Because we can all think scale pricing, but most people can't reach scale, right? So sometimes it starts at a much higher cost. And that's why pilots work, because you're offsetting some of that cost. And you're getting real feedback. Give me 1 second, somebody's knocking. Sam, take over.
Yeah, I mean, also, sorry, I just opened up the chat bigger. What Bob was mentioning, like seeing what your current customers are using now, what the competitors are priced at, and kind of seeing where your value proposition is compared to those competitors. And also that's where the customer discovery comes from in the beginning part of the process is, kind of evaluating your demographic of your target audience and seeing, how much they would pay for something like XYZ, right? So those are all different variable points where you can get an idea where to start with your pricing. It might not be that same pricing you have an idea with at the beginning might not be the one after you have a few months or a couple years from now, depending on the feedback or the responses you're getting from anyone who's buying or not buying your product. So whether it could be pricing or the benefits to your product or services could be a reason on the pricing. So I'm just catching up. There's more questions that came in. Did we help answer that, Carl, by the way? Nice. 2 more fingers. Thomas, my son is a surgeon at the Bone and Joint Center and operates in multiple hospitals. Contact me. There you go, Sandra. Look at it. 3 customer discovery opportunities right there. Thank you, Thomas. We got a finger from Thomas now. Anyone else? My battery's on 10%.
It's a thumb, different from a finger.
You guys had great questions all throughout the day, everybody. So we appreciate the participation. Makes it more beneficial for the group and also smoother for us on our end. So we appreciate that.
Turn it over to Dan again.
We'll turn it over to
All
Dan.
right. Thank you very much. Thank you guys very much for hosting and being so accommodating with your Q&As. And thank you everyone for joining. Keep an eye out for future Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon Food for Thoughts, first Wednesday of every month. And then our Capital District Inventors and Entrepreneurs meet up the first Thursday night of every month. And check out tvcog.net for all of our events, classes, and fun things going on.
Yeah, thank you guys for the opportunity. We appreciate working with Tech Valley Center of Gravity, great partners of ours throughout the last several years. Did everyone get a chance to get the IgniteU website, our emails, the bootcamp link? They was kind of higher up in the chat. Just want to make sure everyone had a chance to get those while they're up there. If not, you can scroll through up really quick and collect those. We appreciate all your time today and listening to us, and we hope to connect with you guys soon and hope to see you in future IgniteU programming. And feel free to reach out to us whenever. And thank you, Dan, again.
Thank you. We're right upstairs.
Thank you.
in the Center of gravity, so
Yeah, third
easy
floor.
to find.
3rd floor if you need us.
Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.